Our next presenters are our friends from Haines, Patty and Rebecca. And the reason that we asked them to present is because, what we talked about yesterday as far as creating content in your community and getting your community involved with doing that. Haines is doing that more than anybody else. As far as, I think, did you just do music in the stacks last week, or maybe it was yesterday?
Yesterday.
Yeah. So they're creating a lot of local stuff and doing a lot of local stuff, and they're getting buy-in locally. So what they're doing is pretty impressive. So that's why they're here to tell us a little bit how they're doing that and some of the things that they've done. So thank you, Patty and Rebecca, and we'll kick it all over to you.
All right. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi. Mostly, I was at the last training for the OWL training, and I heard Rosanna speak, and I really felt like what she was talking about came before what we do. She really was marketing and advertising OWL to her community, and really talked about getting stakeholders together and getting people on board. And what we're doing is kind of the next step. It's getting community involvement with the programs that you're doing, and also finding the number of different uses that people are using the video conferencing equipment for. And so part of what we thought we'd start with is just talking about how some of those things have really happened spontaneously by word of mouth as we've shared the OWL program, and then also as we've just talked to people, and they've walked in the door with plans or ideas about things that they came in with a what if. And so our response really has been, when somebody comes in and is wondering about what to do, how can we help them? What are the ways that we can help them? And so a number of the things that we'll be talking about have really come out of us trying to find the best way to respond to people's inquiries. And one of the first examples that I had as we were talking about, one of the first people that used our video conferencing equipment right after it got up was a woman who was in Haines visiting people, and she was wondering if there was a laptop or something she could use to be able to tie into a class she was taking while she was here for 2 weeks. And what we said was, why don't you try the video conferencing equipment? Because she was actually taking her master's program through the University of Alaska in Juneau. And we were able to set that up with the Fairbanks staff help, Artem and Matt, and she actually completed those courses and is now our deputy clerk here in Haines. So that's kind of a fun story to feel like she was one of the first people that was able to use the video conferencing equipment in the way that we feel like benefits small communities. You're able to take classes and continue coursework when you're traveling to places that are more remote and removed from higher education. And the other things that we did immediately was tie into some of the programs that other libraries were already doing. But Craig was busy doing a lot of programs for kids, and the first thing that we did was jump on board with Hank the Cow Dog. And even though we only had a couple of days to let the community know about it, that actually started to happen because we just sent emails to everyone. We sent emails to the school and emails to the teachers, and then we had some personal calls. So there's ways to get people involved just to introduce them to the equipment and let them know, because I think there's still an education process for people to understand what video conferencing equipment does. It isn't that we're just watching TV. You really are interacting in a classroom setting. So those were the two things that got us started, but also introduced the equipment to people for what it could be used for. And those were, well, anyway, we got excited about that. We got excited that people wanted to use it. And I think then Rebecca was going to share some ways that we actually have conceived of some of the ideas. So I'm going to let you go ahead then.
So I'm talking about
How ideas.
Oh yeah. Yes. Okay. Well, obviously the first, how the idea pops in your head that's totally up to you. We don't know how that happens, but I do know that once you get the idea, then you, of course, think on it a while, and you kind of have to think of the path it's going to take. to come to fruition. And the first thing you have to realize is who your team's going to be. It may be just one other person. Like, for instance, if the idea that pops in your head is for children, you, of course, are going to want to get your children's librarian on board. And if it's a technology thing, you talk to the tech guy. Or if you don't have a tech guy, the most technological person you know who can help you with that. And then once you get the idea to that point, then you have to find the people that are going to be at the front lines, as it were, the doers, the ones that are going to either know how to do the things that need to be done to get the program started, and then the people who are going to be actually working with your patrons or your presenters to make it so. So there's steps that are kind of self-evident, but you just kind of get them in the right order is the important thing with your ideas. And when you do come up with a really good idea, this is kind of important for grant purposes or something like that, and that is that you mark the idea. You make it clear, because some other library might want to run with it, and that's a good thing, but you want to make sure that it's understood where it came from in the beginning, so that it maybe also to make sure that everyone remembers the original focus and purpose of the program. For instance, I have a real good example for our music with our music in the stacks. We actually have a flyer that we send out, and you can change the part that has the photo of the front, although you wouldn't want to if you were going to tie into ours, but if you're going to do your own, you're going to want to change the photo. And then you can change the information of where it is and the time and the description down at the bottom, but the rest is all locked in. And what it has on the edge is the original intent of Music in the Stacks, which says, a number of years ago, the Haines Public Library developed Music in the Stacks to bring music to our visitors. It is also a way to showcase and encourage local artists. We can now offer them exposure to other Alaskan communities through use of the video conferencing equipment provided by Alaska Owl, online with libraries. And that's fixed. So if you come up with a great idea, you're going to want to put something like that on the edge, so that when other libraries borrow it, again, you don't want them changing the intent. You know, you want them to keep the focus. If they want a program that does something else, there, of course, they can kind of morph it and make it something else, but not call it Music in the Stacks. You know, they would call it their own thing. And I was pretty brief on that whole conceive idea, so if you have questions, you might, but feel free.
And the other thing that we have done is to get community involvement and actually to use our video conferencing equipment to share programs with other libraries throughout the state, is to use some of the programs that are already in existence. And that's when I said before that so many things really seemed for us to happen spontaneously. We weren't out actively trying to sell a program for some of the things that happened. We ended up with, we have done for 2 years now, the last Thursday of every month, a cultural program, and tied in with the Chilkoot Indian Association, who's a partner with us in several grants. And at one point, one of the speakers was unable due to weather to get to Haines from Juneau, and so I recommended that they go to the Juneau Public Library and check out the video conferencing equipment. And that was the beginning of us sharing with Juneau and then other libraries our monthly cultural program. It really was, it was spontaneous in my mind. So at that point it was, well, do you do that all the time? And can we video conference like this on a regular basis? And we'd like to be able to offer some of the programs. And so instead of us being always being the host, Juneau was the host at one point, Wrangell was the host at one point, and then everyone is able to share that programming. And then that goes back to, and we'll give you some examples in a little bit so you can see some of the flyers that we've made, but that goes back to the template that we've set up. Some of the programs we've done are tied into grants where we're required to still acknowledge IMLS, so we've created flyers that people can use, and they just don't change a certain side of it, but anybody else could use that. So Wrangell was able to use that, and Juneau was able to use that as well when they're doing cultural programs. And we've all then been able to start to share that throughout the state. But that, we didn't just conceive of that idea. We took an idea that we'd already been using, and other people were eager to jump into it, and that really helped it to grow and blossom. And it was actually fun to see a number of the Tlingit people start to share from different places how they were related to each other. I mean, then they were able to understand what the video conferencing equipment does, that they're actually interacting with each other on the screen, not just watching something from a distance. And that was a good introduction for the public to see how it was used. Another thing that happened was we tied in with the museum. Once they realized we had video conferencing equipment, they had been wanting for years to do a board training, but never felt like they had funds to be able to go to Anchorage and do a board training with 4Acre. And they set up a class time with 4Acre out of Anchorage and used the video conferencing equipment at 2 different times for their board training. And they have since then talked about what a difference they feel like their board is, the level that they're at in terms of strategic planning. So the training was really valuable to them, and they're now spokespeople for our video conferencing equipment. They're really eager to tell people what a resource that was. And the director of the museum also took a class personally using the video conferencing equipment. And again, she became a person that was able to sell it. And so many things can happen by word of mouth. We do a lot of other kinds of ways to promote a program, but I think a lot of the ways that it becomes most successful is when you see another person, you offer it to somebody that walks into your library and they walk out the door telling other people about it. That really is a positive way to sell what you're doing in your library, and also to sell the tremendous things that the OWL program offers to the state. I think if we can tell people more and more that they're able to do board trainings or take classes or participate in conferences that they're not able to participate in, it sort of sells itself. It really does. I think the possibilities with this video conferencing equipment can sell itself. So one of the things that we did that probably got people started right away in the community knowing what our video conferencing was about was we actually went out and got people to get involved just in our kickoff. And we got the Friends in the Library involved because we were talking about how we would decorate. First, the staff got involved. I mean, I guess I should start from the beginning. We said we need to do our OWL kickoff, and the staff got involved by saying, wouldn't it be fun? I mean, let's make it fun. Let's make it a fun event. And everybody got very creative just with the OWL theme. And the Friends of the Library here in Haines, they have a number of themes every year for our lighting of the library, and we realized they had boxes of owls that they had used previously. Fluffy white owls, cut out cardboard owls, and then Rebecca here, who is one of our very creative staff members, ran out and chopped down trees, basically. I mean, really, we had live branches. If you see behind us, it was all full of live branches. We decorated those with the owls from the Friends of the Library, and then we went to the Bald Eagle Foundation and asked them if they could bring in owls and use with their Young Raptors program. I think that's what it's called. They train middle school and high school kids to handle raptors. They came in and led that as part of the story time. That was all part of our kickoff for our OWL event. And so immediately people saw what the use the video conference could be, but we did much more than just have our own library staff be involved. A lot of community members were involved in just the kickoff for the OWL event. If you have more to say about that, you can. I probably missed some of it.
No, you got it.
Okay. So that in everything that, I mean, there's a number of things I feel like offer people what you can by saying, what can we do to help you? And make everything you do fun. Somehow get creative and have fun with it. Then it starts to sell itself, because we haven't spent a lot of time pounding the doors saying, please come and use our video conferencing equipment. We suddenly felt like once people saw the uses, we were going, wait, we better write some policies and figure out what staff is going to be doing what. It really became, it's exciting that people say, isn't this wonderful that the library has this to offer the community? And it kind of caught us off guard how quickly. I think in February we actually had 7 different uses with the video conferencing equipment, from individual to programs. Anyway, to talk a little bit more about some of the programs that Rebecca has planned, I'm going to turn it over to you, and she'll show you some of the flyers as well.
Oh, okay, wow. All right, one of the programs that we didn't even plan, I'm not going to show you a flyer on this one, is a woman came in who does EMT training, emergency response, medical response, and she wanted to train in Hyder, but she didn't want to go to Hyder because it was like 70 feet of snow down there at that point. And what she did is she just came and was talking about possibilities and found out that the video conferencing was interactive, you know, so that she could actually have her class be here, and her 10 students were in Hyder, and so we have 10 EMTers down there, or well, actually CPR. Think of the lives that'll be saved because of this equipment. Anyway, so she was able to do that, and very grateful.
Can I ask you a question? Were they actually able to get certified through the video conferencing?
Yes, because there was a person there who could see them blowing on the.
Okay.
There was someone there who couldn't train, but they could verify.
Okay.
For Lucy that they did the steps. Yes. Yeah, it was great. Okay. Which one do you want to show? This one? That wasn't video conferencing.
Any of the cultural programs, and then your music in the stacks. So.
Right. I have to go further back. Okay. Okay. So on the music in the stacks, we're learning as we go, and some things we've learned with that one. The first one we learned, keep the camera tight on the presenter or the performer, rather than, don't worry about the audience. The people who are video conferencing in don't really want to watch people watching someone do something. They want to watch the person. That was the first lesson learned. And then another lesson is, of course, watch your foreground, because you don't notice it when something's sitting there like that, but the people in the video conferencing do. And when you want to focus on the when you want somebody focusing on the guy singing, you don't want them to keep focusing, seeing the wrong thing. Like when Jeff was performing last night, there was a garbage can right in the line at the site, and I thought, that's what people are going to see, that white plastic bag hanging over the edge of the black trash can, and then I'm going to see him strumming away. His finger work will mean nothing without that. So that was something. And then also the way the cameras versus the presenters facing, because you want the presenter facing the audience in the room, but you also want the camera to have a good shot of them. So you have to have them angled enough towards the camera that they're appealing to the people watching from remotely, and also the people in the room. And that's a matter of you just have to set it up and keep watching the camera until you feel like enough of the face is showing. Last night I didn't feel like enough of Jeff's face showed in the music in the stacks. His should have been kind of relatively recently. Okay, and so that was what we learned. Oh, and then on the Robot Garage program, that of course was CILC, and I didn't have to, it didn't seem like, I thought it was going to be easy, because, they're doing all the work is what I thought. Well, it's robots. And we, the first step was to figure out who was the target audience. It turns out the target audience for Robot Garage, perfect age, 4th and 5th graders loved it. And the simple truth, or the simple way to get that attended was to contact teachers. This is taking, we just called some teachers, and they brought their students over, and we had, I think, 35 students or something like that. And then it was just me, and the teachers came, brought their students, and what they didn't tell me is they were going to leave. And they did. And so that was interesting. But the kids were enthralled. They were absolutely enthralled. If you get the right audience for the right program, then you get a lot of interest. And when I was considering what CILC programs to get, I considered Nova and Nature, the Nature Channel, the TV shows that cover certain things really, really well. So while it seems like it'd be real interesting to get a class about outer space and planets, I realized that to the people who can just turn on their TV and watch a really great NOVA program about that with moving shots and really tight, really crystal clear images of planets and galaxies, that isn't going to be very interesting. to them. They're not going to come to this. They'll stay home and watch TV. What you want to get when you're choosing something or even planning a program that you want to get people interested in out there is something that's not going to be covered by mainstream, TV, and stuff that's interactive, that actually needs the interaction. Anyway, that's just something to consider when you're deciding. That's not just choosing CILC, that's when you're designing your programs too. I can't find that. It's hard to talk and find at the same time.
Okay, I can talk, but
You talk.
those are, excuse us for doing little things we're not supposed to do if you're prepared. Those are way too old.
Oh, I think that's...
Yeah, you're way archived. The other thing that we have talked about before is marketing, and with each of the things that we talk about, what I always realize is no matter what we're doing, everything kind of blends together. As you're thinking about an idea for the program, you start to talk about what kind of audience might be interested, but you also find several different ways to get that information out to the people. And Rebecca shared a little bit about our flyers and the way that we kind of do something consistent all the time with all of our flyers, so that when it's posted around town, people now know that's a library flyer. So if they've become interested in library programs, they are directed to that. We don't change our flyers every time. So it does mean you're getting creative maybe with the center of it, but there's something that says this is a library flyer to people. And that, to me, anything that becomes more consistent, if it gives a consistent message, that's a way for people to put that on their calendar. The other thing that we do is radio PSAs, the public service announcements. Our radio station here is really good at every single day, several times, saying what the community calendar is, and that isn't a paid kind of advertisement. They also will do really nice paid advertisements if we give them plenty of time, but we usually don't have any funds for those kinds of things. And the newspaper has a community calendar, so we're busy making sure our information is in all of those places all the time. Every week then, you open the paper, there's a community calendar, and it lists the events all around town, but the library events are always there. We make sure it's there. And then we also have a website, Haines AK, and we have linked our calendar that we have on our web page to Haines, the community calendar. So the minute we post something on our web page, it immediately goes to the community calendar. And all of those are ways, so it is like you feel like you're saying it over and over again, but you never know when one person reads the paper, one person is talking to another person will just be looking at everything online. And the most recent thing we've done is one staff member decided to use we have a Facebook page, but he's using his own Facebook account to send invites. So when there are certain things that, he knows that with a group of people that he has a long list of people, they all get an alert and a personal invitation to particular programs. And there have been certain programs recently that we know we ended up with a really positive response because of what that staff person has done with his Facebook invites. So you find all different ways to get information out to people, whether you're in a large place or a small place. And again, the other thing is word of mouth. Once, if you're excited about something, share it while you're checking a book out to someone, or when they're calling and saying, is there a meeting room open, and you can easily slip into, by the way, did you know we're doing such and such a program. And I think we get as many responses from word of mouth. And I know a number of the other libraries in the state do things, information with bookmarks or a newsletter. We have a paper newsletter too, the good old-fashioned paper newsletter that we can hand out to people that says, here's some upcoming events. Every time somebody checks a book out, you can stick that in their book. So all of those are ways of getting the information out to people. And then bringing it up in conversations. You're ready to do this?
I'm going to show this one exception to the rule.
Oh.
Yeah. This one is deliberately different than what Patty was talking about. Our flyers have a general format. But this was a program, I'm going to stick it up there for a minute, that was targeting seniors, and they don't want to, they look at things differently. And this was super basic computer skills for seniors. So it was only using the video equipment in-house so they could have the big screen to look at, while
It's not showing up. Oh, there it is.
Oh, it isn't? Okay, you got it now? Okay. Well, as you can see, it's real simple. This was deliberately designed for seniors to look at. Not because we think they can't handle more, it's just this is what they're used to. This is what they grew up with. Simple, get the information and read it. And it is definitely exactly what it says. It started out, the very first session, it's taught by a young man, Jedediah Blum-Evans, who's really great. The seniors love him. But at first, when he was talking to me about what he wanted to teach, I kept telling him, no, the first hour is how to turn the computer on, how to turn the computer off, and practice with a mouse. And then but we could do a little, no, how to turn the computer on, off, and with a mouse. And the seniors loved it. In fact, they were on the little survey afterwards. One of them actually said, when it said, what would you like to see in the future? And one said, more practice turning the computer off and on. Anyway, so that's an exception to what Patty was just saying.
But you can leave that up for a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, the other thing that we did put on there is, and on our flyers where we're doing programming with OWL, we put the Alaska OWL logo on those flyers. And this class, we were able to offer it because of the laptops that we received through the OWL program. So we set the laptops up and basically create a computer lab in the room that we're sitting in right now. And the follow-up to that, the fun part is a number of these seniors, then when they were learning to set up an email account, their homework was to send Jedediah an email. So they would come in and check out a laptop or go to our work, the public computer internet stations, and they would send him an email. They'd maybe be here 5 minutes, but they would come and do their homework. And then they've decided they needed more homework time or practice time. So now he takes the laptops over to the senior center one morning a week for those that want to do some additional homework. So it really has blossomed into, well, it's very fun to see the people who were saying, how do I turn the computer off and on, now coming in and reserving space on a public computer and practicing. So they're to the point where they've set up email accounts, and the next thing they're really been talking about is attachments, because they want to send photos to their grandkids. So it's been fun to see what would happen. But again, we would not have been able to do that without the laptops from OWL. Those are things that you just keep repeating that. I keep repeating that every place I have to talk about things that the library offers. You keep telling them that this is because we were able to be part of Online with Libraries with the State Library. It's made a huge difference for the things we're able to offer.
Okay, I'll take this away from you.
Okay. Can you put it, you don't have a, just show any one of the cultural programs, and then if you
Okay.
can find your music in the stacks one. Mostly it was just, and those flyers are right on our webpage. So the most current one is on, and honestly, on all of our public internet stations, that's the homepage that comes on when somebody sits down to log on to the computer. The first thing they're going to see is the information that we have about programs. And that's an excellent way, again, for you to get your information out. Put it in their face. Something they maybe hadn't thought about doing, that they're going to read it before they move on to logging on to their email account. So this is basically a flyer where it's one of our cultural programs, and we need to keep all of the information that we have on the left side there because it's related to an Institute of Museum and Library Services grant. But then as we have started to share it with other libraries in the state, and it's been particularly Juneau and Wrangell that joined in to do some of the programs, we also added the OWL logo, the Alaska OWL logo as well.
I'm just going to leave it up there and scroll, maybe, huh?
I don't care, whatever you'd like to do.
I'd like to put my glasses on.
And I think Rebecca started this, but the last thing we really have, the more we've done this, we're still learning. In fact, was it just last night? No,
Yeah.
the night before with the music in the stacks, and even today, we still realize we need to set up a training because we have so many different staff that are using the OWL equipment, and we're still going, wait a minute, which button? So Artem had to help us even this morning.
And thank you, Artem, last night, too.
So I really think it's okay to start using the equipment even if you're not completely sure of everything and every button, because you're going to learn as you go. And then Artem is very good about, everyone on the OWL staff, we've worked with Artem a lot, but he's been very good about helping us figure out how we can do some of the extra things that we've been trying to do. And then we continue to learn ourselves. And I'm not sure. So now
Moving the
Rebecca's
stacks is
just
not, yeah, sorry about this. It's just, it's not here. Look at this, program, and I go to the archive.
But I don't want to do this while we're supposed to be
Okay,
on.
all right.
Okay.
So I'll turn it off. I'll
yeah.
take it off then. Get it out of your face. Okay.
Then one of the other things that we've learned is that if it starts to be busy, if it starts to feel like you're having a number of programs that are getting scheduled, we really realized in order for all of us to communicate as a staff, because most people work part-time hours, so we're not always in the library at the same time, our technology coordinator set up a Google Calendar. So anytime that we actually can start 30 days in advance or even further in advance to schedule the video conferencing equipment. And that gives us time, especially when it's special arrangements, to make those arrangements with OWL. So we're not suddenly at the last minute calling Artem and Matt and saying, can't we do this tomorrow night, and why not? You know, we really are making sure we have enough time to set the programs up. But also it's a way for us to communicate with each other, because for a little while we suddenly realized somebody was saying, well, who said that, you know, who set this up, and who's going to be here to make sure the video conferencing equipment is on? And that really was because we ended up with so much all of a sudden. It kind of boomed. And so now we've gotten much better about sharing the Google Calendar, and I don't know if you were going to show that.
Yes.
Okay, now she wants to show you the music in the stacks thing, I think, finally. There.
Finally, there it is. So it's got the same motif, but it's got a little bit of a different blurb on the left there, because, of course, it's what I read to you guys, in case you can't read it, which, of course, you probably can't. But it's, as you see, it's got that definitely the bar and the recognizable layout, so people know at the post office, at the grocery store, oh, library's doing something, and they stop and read it. And now I'm going to go ahead and pop over to the Google Calendar and show you what we have going there. So there's multiple calendars. Of course, you set it up as you wish, and I have multiple calendars here. And here's the OWL video. That's theirs. This is OWL's calendar, which is building slowly. Oh no, this is not it. Look at that. I clicked on OWL. And there it is, sorry. And then we have our own video conferencing, which is just us. And that's not just the stuff that we will do to other locations. It includes the super basic computer class for seniors, because it's using the video conferencing equipment. This is just anything that ties up this equipment in its program so that nobody else, oops, this is it, right? So that nobody else schedules something. But then, of course, when you have a big thing, you have to make sure it gets on the OWL calendar, as Patty was saying. I'm going to click that. There it is. So you just click back and forth between your calendars. There's no real training necessary for this. You just go on to google.com and click on calendars, and you have to have a Google email address. And from that point on, you just go ahead and play with it, and you'll find it's pretty basic, pretty simple, but very handy.
Could you tell us, or me anyway, more about how your music in the stacks works? I mean, is it just, you just hire them, or it's a certain time, or
No.
what is it they're doing?
It's could you wave your hand, whoever was speaking, just so we know? Ah, hi. Okay. It's musicians are generally very happy to have an audience, and it's the library, so they know it's not a commercial thing. We're not making money off them without sharing, so they are very happy to volunteer their time. We've never had a problem with someone saying, well, I'm too valuable for that. So you won't have to, very unlikely someone's going to try to ask you to pay. Very often we do music in the stacks in the middle of the day at lunchtime, so people can come and have lunch. This is one of the few times we allow people to bring food into the library. And so people will be enjoying the music and browsing books. Some people are sitting and listening, but many times people will compliment and be glad that it happened, and the artists won't even have known they were there because they were off looking in the mystery section, finding themselves a book to read for the weekend. Then when we want to video conference it, we'll find someone who wants to do something for the evening, and it's generally an hour, and because that's when it seems like other libraries will be able to tie in. Unfortunately, I have not nailed down the lead time yet. The last time I didn't get the flyer emailed to Shane until a week before the event, which of course they're very busy at the OWL headquarters, as it were, HQ, and they of course can't just stop and say, oh, Haines is doing something, we better get on it. They had to, in their schedule, they got it up. So it didn't actually get sent to the other libraries until I think 2 days before the event. So that's not fair to the other libraries because they need time to advertise to get people to come. So I've got to I know that I have to nail down getting the flyer to be sent to the other libraries at least, I would say, 2 weeks, a month ahead, so that other libraries have time to advertise. And I can do that. I just have to, once the musician is locked in, I can do it. That's all I need in place to get the information out there. As far as, I guess, did I answer your question?
Well, tell me who you've had. Who's performed in your library, just to get an idea.
Okay, let's see. We've had the Heidi Hoes. It's a local group. I'll first mention the two that have been, that we video conferenced. The Heidi Hoes are a local group of 4 musicians, a guitar, 2 guitars, what's that? Harmonica. Yeah, and a vocalist. And then we had Jeff Alvin. He's a acoustic guitarist and singer-songwriter. And then we've had Alita Adkins, who plays piano. And these are names you won't have heard of most likely because they're local people.
They really are all local musicians. We're not going out and looking for, the rich and famous. We're actually trying to give the local musicians a format and a place to play, and also it's not as concert orientated, so they don't get up on stage and suddenly say, oh look, I don't have an audience. It really is when other things are going on in the library and people can wander in and out and be part of it. And I think it does end up, it gives it a special feeling. All of a sudden people will say, oh, that's really nice to every once in a while have some music in the library, and it doesn't take over the library, except during National Library Week. We did do every day from 12 to 1. We did music in the stacks and told people to stop by and bring your lunch. And one day, I think it went on for 2.5 hours. Yeah. Musicians kind of kept joining. Wait, let me run home and get my mandolin.
Yeah, they called themselves an old-fashioned music circle. Yeah, and they started with 5,
very, very
and people
fun.
Came and went. Yeah.
So sometimes it's allowing patrons or whoever is doing it, it kind of takes on a life of its own, and we just want to say yes to the best of our ability. Yeah. Question. Go ahead.
Is that room where they're doing this?
This room, and then we actually have a divider that's pulled right now, so it can double the space. Yeah.
Okay.
And this is part of your library.
Yes.
Yeah, the library is pretty much one big room.
With the music in the stacks, I'm over here on camera, how is the microphone held up to transmitting music to other locations? Has it been distorting at all, or has it been pretty reliable?
I have to ask Artem that. I actually wanted to ask how that went last night. Were you guys able to hear it?
That was pretty good. I was monitoring this conference here from Anchorage, from Jabber, and the microphones are pretty good. It's not the, super, concert quality, but whatever we have for video conferencing, that was pretty decent. You could hear him speak when he was stopping. His guitar sounded pretty nice. There was no, distortion. Nice acoustic guitar, nice voice, so that was all just fine.
So it was just the conference, the equipment microphone. You didn't have any additional microphone?
No, it was just
he didn't have any other.
They have the same exact setup as here.
Okay.
I noticed a lot of the pixelating, and I mean, I was just curious, like with maybe perhaps with dance groups or something.
So let me tell you something a little bit of pixelation. Right now, if Reba and Penny, can you wave your hands a little bit?
Yes, we need to
It's
exercise.
a little pixelated, but more or less okay. So when they were showing the PowerPoint presentation, that was a lot of pixelation.
Right.
And then what's happening is Rebecca tried to show the website, which has lots of information, lots of colors, and she was moving the mouse up and down, so the screen, and the system has to interpret all that information, convert it into digits, send it over the internet. Your system has to encode it again. So whenever you have, well, yes, it's the more information you put on the screen, the harder for the system to interpret it. Like Donna was saying yesterday, the simpler your PowerPoint is, the better it is.
Yes.
Just because the less information the system has to interpret, the faster it would be going.
Well, one of my questions was, you know what a native dance group looks like. There's a lot of colors and a lot of patterns, and their movements and stuff. I was just wondering if the pixelating would affect, you know.
I don't think so, because it's a video. It will be, you know, it wouldn't be crystal clear, but we have more pixelation with PowerPoints and computers than with just showing people on the screen.
The
So
lines,
I'd say try.
That's what I
If you
would
can
say.
get a native dancing group in your library, try, and you're going to be the first one who did the, you know, the native dance.
Well, I just know.
Well, I'll tell you what, you guys are all very colorful. Why don't you get up and dance, and we'll tell you how
We
you
can
look.
check it I mean, Artem's point is really good because it does make a difference between PowerPoints and I'm laughing because after I was at the training, I came back and said, now I'm going to tell you everything we've been doing wrong. And we really should have pulled a couple flyers off of our webpage because we have a very busy webpage, and not in a bad way. There's just a lot of information on there, and there are a lot of pictures. We do a lot of photos that just stream across the top. So if you want to see some of those things better, you can just go to the webpage at haineslibrary.org, and the information will probably be better. But that's where we're learning as we go. When we've done some of our cultural programs and they've been about place names and the presenter had a fabulous PowerPoint, it really, it worked, but it took longer for her slides to load for the people who were receiving it. But she was talking the entire time. It wasn't as if she didn't have information to share. So mostly it's to be aware of that and probably let the people know that are participating that it doesn't, it maybe takes a little longer or it's pixelated, but I still feel like the information gets across. And I do think probably a dance group would work fine. I do. When you think of you're right. When you see all
Because
the
they're moving.
different colors and movement. Yeah.
What about, like, say I take my camera out and I videotape, like, the river moving? I can bring it back and put it on my computer?
But it's going to be
That
video.
is-
So it's
Right.
going to be transmitting video that's from one device to another. So
Right.
your video will be really pixelated.
Okay.
Well, when we watched the YouTube video of Amy Marshall this morning, it was okay, but sometimes her mouse would freeze. And for a couple of shots, so that's what you can expect to happen.
Only worse. I mean, the one we watched with Amy Marshall this morning, it was very good.
It was very good, but you saw what right now when Rebecca and Patty tried to do their presentation, we have this green pixelation at the bottom.
Right.
That's what can happen.
Okay.
Or think about the video we watched at the etiquette thing yesterday that was very
Yeah.
pixelated when she was showing us the video from
Yeah.
her computer.
Yeah,
Right.
because that was from,
Yeah.
So that's what it would look like if
Yes.
you did your own, okay.
And that video doesn't look very good.
Sorry.
Is there more clarity if they're closer versus distance? So say,
no, the camera focus is pretty clear on.
We don't want to be any closer. We didn't get our hair. We backed it way out.
I mean, the only way to make it more clear would be to get faster internet.
Okay.
But
Yeah, that's.
again,
even having cell service, Cody brought that up. We were talking about collaborating back and forth, how one part of, Rosanna had brought it up, collaborating what different lifestyles are like in different parts of Alaska. And he had brought up the fact that to go outside and actually see something, you need cell service in order to be able to get live video. So did the Jabber work out?
No, we actually what Rosanna wants to do, she wants to experiment. They have Wi-Fi at the harbor in Soldovia.
Right.
So she wants to take her laptop to the harbor and try Jabber there. So it's experimental. We're going to try it with her, but what she was talking about, I feel mainly was, bringing in people into the library or artifacts or, lifestyle. Somebody does the fishing, they have the fish wheel, so they can, take pictures of their fish wheel, bring in, nets or whatever, and show it.
Okay.
Or, I don't know, you have, maybe trapping or, traditional...
Well, the Tribal Council is close to the river, and they have Wi-Fi. And I was just curious.
So that would be Jabber.
That would be Jabber, but again, before if we decide to do that,
it's experimental.
It's going to be, you will have to test specifically with you at that location to see if it's going to work or not.
Okay.
Does Jabber work over cell network?
Well, it works over 3G. It should work as long as you have decent bandwidth.
Yeah, but I think we have like 0.5 G.
What if that higher if they stop downloading games?
Sorry.
We actually have a couple programs that we're planning right now, and I think we kind of have decided, we haven't been thinking we would be video conferencing it, but coming up, we're going to have a booth at the 4th of July big event, but prior to that time, on Tuesdays and Thursdays through June, there'll be practice sessions for native games with our education coordinator. And then one of the other things that we're doing is just one of the events is actually to be able to learn how to throw a hooligan net. And they were going to just have little stuffed animals or something out and go outside behind the library. Or if the weather's bad, they do it in this room here and actually learn to toss the hooligan net, trying to both provide an opportunity not just to see what people are doing, but actually try to do it. And so we're in the process of planning that, but we hadn't really thought about trying to video conference those things. And our next cultural program that we're doing, a portion of it probably will not be on the video conference because we actually have people interacting with our storyboard, which would not come across on the video conference equipment at all, I don't think. I mean, we could do a slide kind of presentation, but they wouldn't be able to see because there'd be a lot of movement. So I think there are some things that we just haven't thought that we would be able to offer that with video conferencing. But there was one thing that we felt, now that we're looking at it, the time's running out, there was one thing that we forgot to share when we were talking about all of our flyers and everything else. There's one other thing in order for us to get the information out to people. Rebecca has actually composed a letter that she was going to share that we're sending out to businesses and organizations in the community. So I'm going to let her share that.
All right, this one, the first paragraph and the closure are generic, and then you stick your own personalized paragraph in the middle, and I just have one little beginning of that when I read the letter, but you will personalize it to the organization you've composed the letter for. And so this one, for demonstration, I'm going to say it's the fire department. Dear Fire Department, this letter is to inform you of a resource that is available for your use. The Haines Public Library now has video conferencing equipment that is offered for use by nonprofits and other organizations. We receive the equipment through the OWL, Online with Libraries project, which is a grant administered by the Alaska State Library to bring the world to Alaska by connecting people from all areas of the state with other Alaskans and Americans through video conferencing and the internet. I can see your department using this equipment as a training tool for sites that are too remote or costly to travel to, and then you'd fit, that's your personal paragraph there. And then the closing. It is clear that this could be a very valuable tool for your organization please call the Hainesboro Public Library between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. Monday through Thursday and ask for Reba or Jedediah for further details. And then, of course, just sign off. Now, I'm happy to email this letter to anyone who wants a copy. It's a handy way to make organizations who maybe don't come into the library for any reason, but they will after they discover this, I'll tell you what, to get them aware, and then off it'll go. It'll take off like wildfire, it tells you.
Yeah, and it really is a way it's a way to then to respond to the what can the library do for you? And that's really our way of saying, you know, we're here to help you. How can we help your organization? And one of the things that I forgot to mention, the way our video conferencing equipment got used, we weren't video conferencing, but we used the screen to tie into the legislative information sessions, and then we used teleconference equipment. So our mayor and several other people that wanted to be part of hearings, they were actually able to watch and participate, and then with the teleconference equipment call in to testify for the public hearings. And that's, again, an excellent resource for communities where it's impossible or much more difficult for them to be able to participate in legislative hearings. And that has actually started a whole nother thing where we're trying to then use the library as a legislative information office. So it's interesting how one thing builds to another. So we just saw the little things that said in 5 minutes, our time is up. So is Asia still standing there?
Asia?
Because
She's close.
First I should say, if anybody, do you have any more questions for us? If you do, please feel free to email either Rebecca or I. You'll see our email addresses again on our webpage. So Asia, because hi, we're going to give you some virtual flowers. This is for you because we've been thinking about you and we can't be there to hand them to you. So here they are. If you ever come to Haines to visit, they'll be there for you. Congratulations on your retirement.
You guys, really.
Yeah, we're going to miss you a lot. Yeah.
So that's all we have. I hope you're having a good training, and thanks for including us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Haines before we let them go?
We'd really like to see the dance. Let's do the wave. All of you? See, it would work. The dance would work.
It would work.
Yeah. How's the weather? It's absolutely gorgeous. Right?
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's cloudless.
High 50s?
Absolutely gorgeous.
Well, thank you, Haines.
Yes, indeed.
We look forward to doing this again with you soon.
Ahead of everybody right now.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Shane.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.